The worst thing you can do to mess up your habit building is to assign any kind of motivation to them. As soon as you start assigning motivation to habits, then you are doomed to fail because you'll most likely only start new habits when you feel motivated. And every time you don't feel motivated, you'll see it as an excuse to fall back into bad habits. In fact, you shouldn't even associate any kind of emotion at all with regards to habits. You should do your habits regardless of how you feel. So you should keep habits and feelings separate. Like, no matter how shit you feel in the morning, you still get up to take a piss. You still get up to drink water. You still get up to brush your teeth, make yourself breakfast. These are all habits that you have to follow. These are all habits that you follow daily, regardless of how you feel. And that is how habits should be treated. They should be met with structure and repetition and dedication, but never emotions, never rewards. Well done, you did it. Do you applaud yourself every time you make breakfast in the morning? No. Do you applaud yourself every time you put another load of washing in the washing machine? No, because it's just part of your daily life. So also thinking that I must be rewarded for my good habits, that's also building on a rocky foundation, because what if you have to maintain your habits without getting any kind of reward? The reward is that you get to live a normal life. You just get to get on with your day and get on with your life. That is the reward. Take all kinds of feelings out of habit building. Your feelings are turbulent and they're constantly changing. One day I'm happy, the other day I'm depressed. One day I'm feeling manic, the other I'm feeling fucking down in the dumps and I don't want to do anything. Another day I'm motivated, another day I'm demotivated. Your emotions are inconsistent, but your habits have to be consistent. So you definitely don't want to pair those two together. You don't want to associate habits with feelings. So completely fucking forget about motivation. Okay, building good habits is not about motivation. It's not about waiting for the right time that you feel good enough to do it. Habits are about structure and they are about repetition and they are about daily practice. You have to do it every day. That is the thing with habits, man. Okay, you have to do them every single day. And people come with their bullshit excuses. Oh, I'm just not good in routines, eh? I just can't maintain a routine and I keep falling out of I can't maintain a good habit. I'm so shit at doing repetitive things, and that's bullshit, bro, because people like that, they do repetitive things. You check those lazy motherfuckers that don't do anything with life and they're sedentary, and that's all good, bro. If you are, I mean, I've lived that life for many years, bro. I know the joys of it and the comfortability and predictability of it. It feels great. um, but it can also be very self-destroying. And even though you're a relatively sedentary person that doesn't do much or is lazy or unorganized, as you say, I'm pretty sure you still have your habits, man. Like when you sit down for TV, you got to make sure that all the curtains are closed. Okay? Phone's on silent, you got your snacks, you got your chow, you got enough water, you've taken a piss, you're nice and comfortable, you got your blankets. There's a whole routine that you go through before you start your movie. So you're not unfamiliar to routines. You're just you really struggle to maintain routines that don't yield any instant gratification. And that's really what it is, man. Okay, that is really what makes keeping habits going so difficult, especially with people who have instant gratification issues. So, people like with ADD, for example, it's very hard to maintain anything that doesn't have an immediate positive effect on the outcome, you know, which is why it's very easy for people with ADD to binge watch fast food and watch a movie, because by sitting down and doing that, it's an instant dopamine hit. It's an instant form of gratification. I get pleasure now, you know. All I have to do is eat and I'll feel pleasure. All I have to do is watch a nice movie and I feel escapist. So instant gratification is a big thing, man. We also have to get rid of instant gratification. Completely dissociate instant gratification from habits and daily practices. Daily practices don't exist to make you feel good. They don't. Daily practices don't exist to make you feel happy. Okay? They're not designed to make you feel happy. They are designed to give you structure. They are designed to act as an anchor amongst the chaos of your tumultuous life. They are meant to act as a space in which you can reflect or go to take a little bit of respite from the chaos of the world, a little bit of refuge. Learn how to be your own safe space. You know, that's one of the three refuges in Buddhism. I take refuge in the Buddha. And they don't mean the Buddha is in the person. They mean I take refuge in the Buddha as in the Buddha mind. I take refuge within the silence of my own consciousness. That's where the value of meditation comes in. Being able to access that higher perspective of consciousness where you are just an observer. But daily practices is not about happiness. It's not about any kind of feeling. It's about repeating a certain thing in your life in order to create a sense of stability. And that in itself doesn't make you happy, but it creates an environment within your life in which being happy becomes a lot easier, if that makes sense. So the practice itself doesn't. Some practices do. Look, like in Bhakti Yoga, I mean, for me personally, a lot of my Bhakti practices, they would yield an instant gratification through the joy that I would feel when singing kirtans and connecting to divine consciousness through music, through philosophical talks, through kirtans and bhajans, things like that. And I think that's why I did it so much, because it was yielding an instant gratification. All I had to do was turn on Krishna Das and really get into it and start chanting mantras and really focus on that mantra and hone in, lock in on that mantra. And very quickly I'd get swooped up into this very blissful state of consciousness, and it felt like I was high on life, literally high on life. Everything's beautiful, everything's clear. You just feel love inside your body. You just feel emptiness inside your own state of mind. It's I can understand why a lot of spiritual people keep running after that high. They keep running after that high of enlightenment, that high of consciousness expansion, and it's the and I suppose we're not really supposed to chase the experiences, but the experiences give us perspective. And I think any kind of meditation, that's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to help us mediate our own mental states in some way or another. So, when we use daily practices, we create a space that the mind can predict. And it doesn't matter what the fuck's going on in your life. And it's very important. That's why it's very important to stay diligent with practice. Because the more consistent you are with practice on a daily basis, regardless of what the fuck's happening, bro. Okay? It doesn't matter what's going on. Doesn't matter who's died. Okay, maybe in the, case of death, yes. But before you leave the house, just take the beads, close the eyes for 10 seconds and connect with that space. Okay? By really dedicating that level of persistence to a daily practice, you create a very, very powerful grounding anchor in your life that allows you to really explore all the different nuances of reality. It allows you to explore all kinds of things. It allows you to go far into certain things. Everybody's like, don't go down the rabbit hole. You're going to get obsessed. And it's like, dude, I have the ability to get completely obsessed, completely into it, and at the same time not make it a part of my identity at all. Just see it as something that I'm doing, something that I'm experiencing, something that I'm enjoying. Because from afar, it looks fucking weird, okay? Especially to my friends and family that I'm into like Hindu practices and stuff like that. To them, it looks weird. To me, I know exactly what I'm doing because it's me. I'm on this side of the perspective. Um, where was I going with this? And something we have in the West is the loss of daily practice. The loss of daily practice where we connect with ourselves momentarily. Um, and I think that is why it is so easy for Western people to get swooped up into the chaos of their lives and really strongly identify with the turmoil of their lives and the experiences that they have in life. They fully identify with it because they don't have anything else to identify with. You see, people in the East have a slight detachment from their daily ongoings because they take time to connect with their inner selves, with their true selves, which is the consciousness within. Okay, and when we take time to connect with, understand, be in the presence of, and slowly learn to identify with our own state of consciousness, resting consciousness, beingness, and awareness, then we create a very healthy perspective between us and the reality that we are experiencing. Because if I'm being completely honest, most people don't have a healthy relationship between themselves and the world. They have a very distorted perception of who they are in relation to the world. Like people who are dedicated to their corporate life have made it their whole identity. Men on Wall Street jumped out of the buildings because they couldn't believe that their very identified with reality had just been shattered right in front of their eyes. The Wall Street crash, bang, everything that they worked hard for in the shitter. And because they identified so strongly with that, when that identity changed, okay, when that circumstance changed, just like that, they could not deal with the with that disconnection. It was too much, and it created a psychological break. So the way people identify now in modern day times is very unhealthy. They don't have a healthy, psychologically healthy way of identifying. What you should be identifying with is your own sense of beingness inside yourself. Okay? It's that simple. It's really that easy. It's nothing mystical, it's nothing religious. You are simply asking yourself, who am I, without thoughts, without actions, without feelings. Because those are the three major things that we use to describe ourselves and describe us. Our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions. Those are the three great pillars of all human behavior and thoughts, both inner and outer. But it's important to ask ourselves first to differentiate, okay, that this is not who we are. What we think, what we feel, and what we do is not who we are, it is what we do. And there's a difference. Our career, our identity, any kind of behavior that we do in life, okay, from a not even a philosophical perspective, from an obvious logical perspective, is not who we are. It is what we do. Okay? It is what we do. It's our behavior. And it's important that we don't identify with our behavior. Because when we identify with our behavior, we may face an identity crisis because at certain points in our life, our behavior becomes incongruent with who we think or who we feel we are. And there may be times where we do things that are completely out of character. And when those things happen and when those events happen, it can cause a psychological break. It can cause an identity crisis. I had no idea that I could do that. I had no idea that I could be so nasty to somebody. And it really can cause a lot of psychological psychological turmoil in us. So it's important not to identify with the behavior of our psychology. Okay, we are more than that. We are the awareness, we are the experiencer of that. We are not that thing itself. We are the constant awareness that is always here and never goes. Whether it be through the waking state, the dreaming state, or the deep sleep state, there is always a sense of awareness. Even in the deep sleep state. That void is not an absence of awareness, but rather, it's not an absence of experience, but rather the experience of absence. So when you go down into that deep sleep, it's not nothing. It's not non-existence, because if it was really nothing, it would just be, you wouldn't be able to perceive it. But everybody has this ability to perceive this. After the dreams, before I woke up, I went and slipped into this deep void, you know, just for a second, where I was in this deep sleep, and then from there I woke up. And it was this instantaneous dip into the dark void, but I could definitely perceive that I did it. That deep dark void is the true nature of consciousness. It's the blind silence. The blind silence. It's consciousness deaf and dumb, with no perception of reality, simply awareness itself in the vacuum of space. It has zero associate. I know to a human being that sounds terrifying, to just be an awareness in the vastness of space. The atheist would say it's just nothingness, and to an extent they're not wrong, but it's not eternal nothingness. It can't be eternal nothingness, because we exist in a something. We exist in a something. The world is something. The universe is something. We don't know what that something is, whether the nature of it is tangible or transient and made of consciousness, as the Hermetic texts say. But we definitely know that it's here, and we definitely know that it exists, and we definitely know that we exist. So existence is real. Existence is real, and existence is infinite, which means that there's no such thing as nothingness. We can experience nothingness as an experience, but when we go into that state of nothingness, it isn't going to feel like an eternity. You think, oh God, imagine spending an eternity in the void. When you go into the void, time and space no longer exist. So there is no waiting for eternity in the void. It's just this in-out, like falling asleep. Okay, and maybe your consciousness did spend trillions and trillions and billions of years in a state of suspended silence. But because there was no perception or conception of anything, it felt like an instant. We can only measure time through the perception of form and through the perception of nature's rhythms. We can only perceive time in that way. We can only perceive time because we have an imagination and because we have a memory. Those are components of our brain. But as consciousness, we experience everything here in the now. And the illusion of time starts to take effect on us when we come into contact with repetitive forms and repetitive rhythms. But when we sit in the void, when we sit in the darkness, in the nothingness, in the sunyata state, there is no time, so it happens like an instant. And then you come back into creation. And the very contact with creation creates the illusion of time and creates the story, creates the narrative, the dream simulation of reality. Now we're getting into some deep esoteric stuff, and I can't even remember what the beginning of the talk was. Rambler, a professional rambler. A professional rambler. So yeah, like, work with right identification. Learn what you should be identifying with and what you shouldn't be identifying with. Because if you identify with the wrong things, you may end up taking a shitload of things very, very personally in life. Okay, and that's going to cause a lot of psychological suffering. A lot of suffering for you, because identifying with anything external is a rocky foundation, because nothing in the external world ever stays the same. Everything is constantly changing in this world of form and experience, whether it be in the inner conscious experience, in the spirit world, in the astral plane. Anything that exists in form is in a constant state of change. A constant state of change. So identifying with anything in form is bound to fail, because it will change. But the only thing that doesn't change is the self. The self is permanent. The self remains. Through whatever experience you have, it remains there. Which means that logically, it is the only safe thing that you can identify with, is the sense of your own beingness. Again, it's not religious, it's not wacky spiritual, it's not even metaphysical. It's obvious that the only thing that you can identify with is your own sense of self. And the only way you can pull your identification away from the world and towards the self is by connecting with the self on a daily basis. And that's what meditation does. That's what sadhana is all about. That is what daily practice is all about. No matter how you do it, no matter who you do it through, no matter who your guru is, no matter who your Ishta Devata is, no matter who you pray to or what you associate as, being able to sit down and connect with the true essence of your own nature on a daily basis will give you perspective throughout your life. And that perspective will always work to your advantage. One, because you won't always associate with everything you fucking see in the world. And number two, it gives you a secondary space of conscious existence from which you can operate. And that's valuable. Instead of feeling like you are sucked up in it, you can actually take a step back and see things objectively. And that is a skill, man. That is a skill, okay, that you want in life. The ability of metacognition. But before this professional rambler carries on, let's call it a day. I think that's it. Yeah.